It's my great pleasure to introduce everybody to Archie Coates this morning, who is joining us from Brighton. Morning, Archie.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're going to be speaking this evening. We'll find out about what a little later. But many of us in the Stewards Trust will know you, but could you just introduce yourself for those who don't?
Yeah, hi, I'm Archie, and I was basically say in Brighton. We've been living here 10 years. I'm the vicar at St. Peter's Brighton, which is a plant from HTB, married to Sam. We've got 4 teenage children.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. One of the features of the talks this week is that everybody has had some involvement with Stewards Trust along their sort of faith journey. And it would be really, I'd love to hear, and I'm sure others would, about where the Stewards Trust impacted your life growing up.
Oh, incalculable. I was taken to an Easter house party when I was 13. And then I went every year to the Stewards Trust for the next 10, 15 years, first as a teenager. I was adopted, my family didn't go, but I was adopted by another family. So I used to go Easter and then also in the summer ones. And then when I hit 18, I made the transition to start helping.
Brilliant.
And so throughout university, I was a helper at Easter and at summer. It was the place where I was first trusted to give a talk.
Wow.
It was the place where I was first trusted to lead worship. And I first got my taste of Christian ministry there. So and some of my best friends. So it's extraordinary. The church warden that we have now in Brighton, who we planted with 10 years ago, she was somebody I met when I was 14 on Stewards Trust. So all these links and things, it was amazing.
So good. And what was it then that sort of kept you going back year after year in your teenage years and then sort of drew you into wanting to help on those events as well?
It was the mixture of fun and the life of the spirit. It was, I don't know, I think everyone has different pathways, don't we? And they're all important: Bible reading, prayer. But for me, worshiping together has always been how I connect with God. And actually, I find this season difficult for that. That's what I hadn't tasted worship like that before I went to Stewards Trust.
Great. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to shift the emphasis a bit. I've got a couple of questions that I've been asking to everybody this week. So the first one is, could you maybe share with us a piece of wisdom that you've gleaned along the way during lockdown that you could share with us?
Well, I'm probably still trying to process, but one of the things I've noticed is, that ironically, just when we've been socially or physically separated, actually the connections with people have been closer.
Yeah.
So, you hear of people ringing their family or in a ways, or having calls or quizzes with people that they might not have been in touch with quite so regularly, much more frequently in this season. And I think that's probably been the main learning for me is, at the end of all this, I think what people are going to remember is whether you remember them. So I set this thing early on in lockdown. I tried to set myself a little target to ring 2 people a day. They'd either be strategic people, leaders in the church, or just people who, as I was praying, popped into my mind. And those conversations, without any agenda, they're not ringing people to ask them to do something, but just to connect. I think that's been probably the most enriching thing of the last few months.
That's brilliant. That's great. I wish I'd done that. Might be a bit late now. So the follow-up to that is, as we start to emerge from lockdown and hopefully as the impact and the effect of the virus starts to lessen, just wondering what hope you might have for a sort of post-coronavirus world.
Yeah, and some of my lens is through a kind of church pastor role. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed, which I would love to kind of keep, is it's sort of been so disruptive, but actually in a good way. It's made us all insurgents again as Christians. And I think the thing I dread is going back to the kind of machinery of sort of, sometimes it's like church is like an events company. You just sort of endless cycle of things that you're trying to put on. And the events, of course, are really important, where you gather people.
Yeah.
But I think if there was something that church is more than just a gathered community in a building once a week, if there's something that's worked now in our hearts where we're more scattered, I think it'd be quite good to keep hold of that. And all those sort of new relationships that we've built and could build on. Whether it's with neighbours or with friends or people we haven't connected with in a while. So I think what I'm keen to do is not rush back to a programme of events and a full diary, but how can I be a little bit more flexible?
It's almost like we're sort of being forced into sort of back to basics.
Yes.
Way of doing Christian community, because
I do feel that.
Good. Brilliant. And then finally, just if you could give us a little taste of what you're going to be speaking about this evening on House Party at Home.
Well, what I'm speaking about is about control, because and I may be the only one, but I didn't realise I was a control freak until the coronavirus crisis. And then I realized that there were so many things up in the air that I couldn't control. And then you do that thing of sort of making a list of the things that are in your control and the things that aren't. And I realized actually that I needed to learn to shift the weight of my place from being control to trust.
Right.
And I think that's the journey that maybe quite a lot of us have been on. What do you do with the things that you can't control? And there's quite a lot of that, really.
Yeah, brilliant. That's fantastic. I really look forward to seeing you this evening.
And it's such a pleasure.
No, so good. And I just wanted to say a big thank you for joining us, giving us the time this morning, and also for putting together a talk for us. We really appreciate it. And it's going to be so good to hear from you. Normally over the summer with the summer events, you'd be at Focus, we'd be doing our things.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get a chance to hear from you. And it's one of the blessings of this season.
Yeah. It's for me. Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks, everyone.
Great stuff. Thanks, Archie.